So my guest today is James Baillieu, who's in London and who, in my opinion, and maybe the opinion of many others, is one of the young rising stars of collaborative piano in that elite realm of great collaborative pianists. And our patrons, subscribers, wonderful people who keep us going, don't actually know, so I will spill the beans now, but they don't know that you and Benjamin Appl, the fabulous baritone, were supposed to have done our surprise concert last spring. And of course, that fell by the wayside. And then you're supposed to have been coming in November with Peter Moore. And that's gone by the wayside. So we'll have to cook up some more things to get you here.
I'd love that.
You've been here with Tara Erraught, right?
Exactly. Yes, we had a great time in Vancouver. I loved it there.
Well, we had a wonderful time having you here, and you gave a fantastic masterclass, the two of you. I see that you've done a concert or two with Lise Davidsen.
We did a recital via the Metropolitan Opera, somehow beamed from satellites from Oslo, at the King and Queen's Palace there. And actually on Monday, I'll go to Dortmund in Germany, and Lise and I have another recital there with a socially distanced audience.
So Lise Davidsen now is probably one of the hottest singers around, isn't she?
Yeah, she's wonderful.
And she's an amazing singer, isn't she?
Yeah, she. I mean, we met a long time ago. I actually heard her at a competition, and I was amazed at the power of the voice and the intensity of it. And I said to someone on the jury, "Gosh, that must be the winner." And they said, "Oh, she'll never have a career." So I went to her and I said, "You're not going to win this competition, but I think you're wonderful, and let's stay in touch." And that's how our collaboration started. And we've done various recitals. We did a big concert here in the Barbican in London, and we had a whole lot of stuff in the US this season, which has sadly been cancelled. But it was really nice to do the Metropolitan thing, because it's a way of reaching the audiences in the US without actually having to get there, which is impossible for us right now.
Yes. So, but now the $1 million question, which you didn't answer, was, did you win the competition?
No, she didn't.
You know, I once had a co-worker years ago who, when Renee Fleming was first rising, and I had gotten a CD of hers, this person said to me, "Oh, she'll never have a career because she can't sing in tune."
Well, it seems to be, if that is said about you, you go on to do well. So maybe it's something we should all strive for. My very first piano teacher at my school in Johannesburg, I think my first report says that James plays the piano like a cold rice pudding. And it was good, actually, because I was like, I'm going to prove her wrong.
Yes.
And it sort of gives you a bit of a kick.
So, James, what led you to where you are now? What were the steps? How did you get to where you are?
Well, I started. I mean, first of all, my family was always very musical, not we in an amateur sense, and my mother always had music playing in the house. But I started piano lessons actually because of a strange thing. I had terrible hand-eye coordination as a child, and I was I kept my hands separately, and I hated crossing them. So a physiotherapist actually said, "Well, why don't you try piano lessons?" And my mother thought, "Oh God, he can hardly open a door. What's he going to do at the piano?" But so I started piano lessons and mostly played with my hands crossed, and that actually fixed the problem. It was because my core was so weak that I was neither dominant in either hand, and playing like this strengthened it inadvertently. So the piano kind of was what helped me overcome all those big issues at school, and then I was able to write. And I mean, I'm still not very adept at sort of ball sports and things like that, but my coordination is generally okay. But so yeah, that was what helped me out of all that, and then I became just a bit obsessed with it, and practiced a lot. My family was always telling me, we live in Africa, go and play outside, and I would be at the piano and doing my thing. And then I went to a high school, which was a very music school in Johannesburg, and a wonderful piano teacher there, Mrs. Armstrong, who really encouraged me. And actually, it was her that said to me that you should always work on being able to sight read and learn things fast, because it's a very good skill. And she was sort of started even at that stage to drip into the fact that I was probably more suited to working with people because of my temperament and the way I played, etc., than to follow this very solitary soloist life. And then I went to University of Cape Town, which was wonderful. I had a fantastic teacher there, and we had a lot of time. His name was Graham Fitch, or is Graham Fitch. He comes from the UK. But that was also grateful because it was a small department, very friendly. We had a lot of, it was easy to practice, easy to find rooms, not like it is in these big cities. And I suppose my first big break was then I did a competition in San Jose in America, and won a prize, much to my surprise. And that was also when I decided part of the prize was a tour, and it was a solo recital tour. And after doing that, I thought, I don't want to do this. I don't want to travel around on my own and just practice on my own, perform on my own, or you with the orchestra. They're kind of intimidating. And so on the way home via London, again, a kind of mistake, I went to Madame Tussauds, as you do. And I got lost on the way out and wandered into the Royal Academy of Music. And being very naive and South African, I said, "Oh, can I play for someone?" And they found the head of piano accompaniment, strangely, and that was my audition. And they offered me a place there and then, and that's how I arrived into that scene.
That's absolutely incredible. What a story. I'm so happy. See, this is the epitome of what I'm aiming for in order, now that we're not having concerts at the VRS anymore, and we try to still keep in contact with our subscribers and our patrons. But I thought it would be great to talk to musicians like you so that the audience can get the background. Can you tell me what is the difference? And this may be a stupid question, I don't know. What is the difference between working with a singer and an instrumentalist?
I would say that the biggest difference is diplomacy. And when you're working with singers, because their instrument is within them and it's their own body, it requires a different kind of care and kindness, because if the violin is out of tune or whatever, or whatever, you can do that, but someone's voice is deeply personal. So I think the way I try to work with singers is to always be as encouraging as possible, but also not compromising quality, and working to striving for excellence. And I think then also just that the main thing we do is being very aware of the physicality of singers, how their breath is working and all that kind of thing, so that you can help them get through their phrases in the most wonderful ways, and you can learn to read the bodies and see, okay, well, today it's not like yesterday, so today we have to move this phrase, or oh wow, she's on a roll, we can take all the time in the world here, and it's so it's being very flexible with that. Whereas chamber musicians, I think, like to fix things more, and because of the nature of the human body, I think there just has to be more flexibility with singers.
It sounds to me, from listening to you, that you actually know a hell of a lot about singing. Have you had any lessons? Have you been in lessons? How do you know so much?
Yeah, I mean, I've never had lessons myself, but I've probably been in more singing lessons than most singers, because I find the process of singing and singing technique fascinating, and I think it's quite important to do what we do to know about that, because then you can use your pianistic skills to try to try and help in that way. But no, I've always found, actually, right, going back to the College of Music, the opera school there was so fantastic, and I've always found singing and the human voice fascinating. So it's something that I'm very interested in, and now I work back at the academy. I'm one of the professors there, and I work with singers and pianists.
So how much of your life is devoted to teaching?
Not a vast amount. I think I'm very fortunate. I live only 15 minutes from the academy here in London, so I go in 3 mornings a week, and but I could condense it into one day if necessary.
Do you have much time to then play with instrumentalists and play other chamber music?
Yeah, so I try to keep. I've tried to keep a balance as much as possible. The industry likes to shoebox people, and they like to say, okay, he's a specialist in this. But I've tried to keep a balance, and I have kind of a motley crew of instrumentalists I play with, and quite of weird and wonderful instruments. Peter, as you know, who's a wonderful trombonist.
Yes. Oh.
And I mean, I never thought that I would do recitals with a trombone, but he's amazing. And working with him is like working with a great baritone. He's full of color and sensitivity. Then I work a lot with a flautist, a couple of string quartets, and then the obviously the more traditional violin and cello repertoire. But the ethos at the academy when I studied, and still now, is that pianists doing the collaborative course, or accompaniment course as we call it here, are encouraged to do both chamber music and song, because both of them inform each other, and I think that's nice.
It's funny, the terminology, accompanist and collaborative. So I suppose we kind of moved away maybe in North America. The two worlds are quite different, actually. From using the word accompanist, because I don't know why, and maybe I'm wrong, but the implication in audiences' minds, I think, is that an accompanist is a lower standing than, and yet using the word collaborative pianist sounds kind of phony to me. I wish there were different terminologies.
And I think that I have a problem with the word collaborative pianist, because it then assumes that solo pianists are uncollaborative.
Some of them are, James.
But and I've always found, you accompany your daughter down the aisle on the wedding day. It's an incredibly, the word accompany has, or you accompany someone to hospital, or you accompany someone to important events. So I've always had a positive association with it. But no, I mean, there's a big drive to change everything, and I just call myself a pianist that works with singers and instruments, or song pianist, or because I think, yeah, it's a sort of can of worms.
Well, I mean, I have to say, from my experience, that the role that you play is of enormous importance, because, I mean, I remember I once had a violinist here who shall remain nameless for two reasons. One is I've forgotten the name, and two, lucky. And that violinist came with a pianist who was so terrible that it completely ruined the concert. Because I think, it's like trying an athlete, a tennis player, trying to play a great game of tennis for somebody who's not nearly up to their standard. Then they play terribly. So I think your role is vital to the success of a performance on stage.
Well, I would agree, obviously, but and I think there's a lot of I think that a lot of audience members don't know quite what it means to be an accompanist. It's not always just to follow the soloists. I kind of, when I describe our job to my students, I call it sort of an extreme form of tennis. you've got to be completely aware of where the shots are coming from. Are you going to hit it back nicely, or is it, sometimes you've got a challenge, and you want to hit the ball and make the soloist work harder or whatever. And it's so it's there's a lot more to it than just being with a singer or being with a soloist. It's a ping pong of energies on stage or in rehearsals, and it's a fascinating experience.
Roughly, how many singers have you worked with over your career?
I would say hundreds.
Oh,
I mean,
okay. How many of those have you worked with on a consistent basis?
About 8 to 10. I have a kind of strong duo relationship with, and we do a lot of work together. Benjamin Appl being one of them, Lisa another, Tara also. We do a lot together, and they also become really, those three are also three of my best friends.
Yes.
Because you work so closely with each other, and you travel together, and it's a very sociable thing, actually. And then other singers, and my approach when I started kind of doing concerts was to mainly work with people from my generation, as kind of forming strong partnerships with, because those are the things that you can grow with. It was wonderful to work with some of the great singers, but you always kind of felt like you were having to do what they wanted, and it wasn't always a open discussion, which with people your own age is easier.
Oh, the other thing is, do you want to know something extraordinary? We put this tickets on sale for the recital series earlier this last year than we've ever done before. Wouldn't you know that? And so we started selling subscriptions. And do you know that your concert with Peter by last April had already sold close to 400 tickets?
Wow.
Yeah. Can you believe that?
But I think that's more probably a testament to you and your taste, that your audience trusts you. And
well, that's, and it's wonderful to do. I mean, it's about the quality of the performer and whatever instrument they play. Yes, that's very exciting. And you know what, James? I only realized it 6 or 8 months ago, because I've never had a chance to think about anything, because I've always been too busy putting on concerts. But I realized why the VRS has had the life it's had. And that is because I have been so lucky, because I've never had a committee or a board of directors who said, you can't do that because it won't sell tickets. And so when you take risks and you put on a trombone recital or a trumpet recital, the audience comes because they know that the quality of what you do is terrific.
Yeah, well, that's great. And I think that's because there's nothing more boring than having the same, a lot of these festivals just rinse and repeat and regurgitate what the other ones do. And
exactly.
It also doesn't give the the trombones of this world a chance, and they should be heard, and they should be enjoyed.
Well, actually, you know what? This actually even puts it in a much better or worse light. I bet you if you had been with a singer instead of with Peter, you wouldn't have sold as many tickets.
And I think that's something that I'm very aware of as one of the younger song pianists, is that we need to work in a way to make lead recitals not scary anymore. I think they became,
How can we do that, James? Help me. I want to do that.
Well, first of all, I think just by using surtitles like you do helps tremendously. And I think just talking to the audience, and so it's not a scary English tenor singing German songs all night without any connection. And I think a little bit that the way Lied was presented, especially in London and around, became so academic and intellectual, and people felt like they had to have a thesis on Goethe before enjoying a concert. And I'm the opposite of academic, but I'm very instinctive, and I think that hopefully just by presenting it like this and being honest and finding our way with it as the younger generation, it will encourage audiences back.
I hope so, because, we have now, I mean, I have, unfortunately, and I'm speaking about Vancouver, we brought big name singers here a lot over the years. And I'm very proud, of having presented Jessie Norman here and Cecilia Bartoli in a Canadian debut and things like that. But we lose so much money now. When we bring big singers, the fees are big, we put them in big halls, and then we can only sell half the hall, and you feel terrible about it. So, in the interests of not losing too much money all the time, we're going to sort of retreat from bringing big name singers, except for Bartoli. I mean, but she would never come here anyway. But I'm not giving up on young singers.
I don't know if you've seen Barbara Hannigan has launched a very interesting for young people, because I think I'm very fortunate to be getting work and still working, and for people just trying to emerge right now, it's impossible. But she made a very good point when she spoke to me. She said, all these singers train so much at conservatoires with recital repertoire and have recitals ready to go, but they have to become famous before they're allowed to present them. And and that's in sort of 20 years time for a lot of them. And so I think to have opportunities for young singers to present recitals is fantastic, because it gives them a chance to hone that skill which they are doing when they study. And it gives the audience a chance to see them as people rather than them as characters or them as something on stage. I think that it's about being able to connect to the audience and share and tell stories.
Exactly.
And I think that's probably why I love this genre of German Lied. It's not, I obviously understand German, but it's not a language I could write in or whatever. But we grew up, I mean, you probably also did, we grew up with so many wonderful storytelling things. I remember our nanny in South Africa used to tell us these folk stories, and this sort of tradition of sitting around the fire telling stories.
Yes.
And that's what I feel that a Lied recital is. It's sharing your personal stories with an audience, and
Yes.
It's really wonderful, and people should experience them if they haven't.
Actually, you see, that surprise concert that you were going to do for us with Benjamin would have been in a theatre here, which is called the Tellus Theatre, which is a theatre in the round where the musician is right in the middle and the audience sits around. And it's a very different ambiance. There's a connection there. And I think when you talk about sitting around in circle and telling tales, I mean, we once did a performance in there. I can't believe that we did it, because I can't imagine how we could have afforded it, with Florian Bush and Malcolm Martineau doing Winterreise. And,
Oh, wow.
and the room is very dark anyway. And it was an extraordinary experience, because I had asked the lighting technicians if they could, throughout as the performance moved along, have the lights go dimmer and dimmer and dimmer. And then I said, and can you get the hall to get colder and colder and colder? And they said, no, that we can't do.
No, I think simple things like actually the concert I did with Lisa in the Barbican, we had a lighting designer for it, because the Barbican is a very brutal stage, and if you just if you just a singer and a pianist, it's so small, and so the lighting designer really worked to just focus the audience in, and changed, as we went from Grieg, we had more sort of green lights, and Sibelius was more sort of warm red, and it
How
really helped.
fantastic. What a brilliant idea.
But it just looked so there when we first saw it, that we thought we're going to have to do something to help, and so we came up with this concept of having lighting, and then actually during the one piece, which was a small video thing that was projected onto her dress, and that's, I think little things like that, you don't have to do something drastic, but that's just something that helps.
What a fantastic idea. Thank you. I'll make a note of that. Yes, I'm so glad you signed with American Management now, with one of my
Yes, no,
favorite managers on the planet.
yeah, me too. I mean, it's, you know, when I first met Bill, he was just so keen, and he really cares about the music. And that was so evident, and I just thought it was the right kind of fit.
He's a wonderful
Yeah.
colleague, you know. It's interesting. I mean, I've been very lucky because I've been at it for so long. I have made friends with managers. You know, it goes beyond just a working relationship. It's a relationship of trust and admiration, and it's so wonderful to work with people like that, and to be able to just keep in touch with them, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So I feel so privileged to have been doing what I never dreamt when I started out, that this is how things would turn out. And every day I'm still surprised. So let's hope that we get over this virus thing. Let's hope that we get medications or something, and so that you can come back.
But I think the what is amazing is that just, I think it was last weekend, I was with Mark Padmore in Italy, and we had an audience again, and I mean, distanced, but the audience, you know, they're just desperate to experience live music, and it was so nice for us as well to be suddenly sharing. And I mean, there's been amazing stuff online, but it's not the same as experiencing something communally in a room together. And I certainly realized just how lucky I was to do this job. You know, I get to travel around with wonderful singers playing glorious music to
Yes.
wonderful audiences.
Yes.
If
Yes.
it just makes you take stock of how lucky you are.
Exactly. Well, have a good time. You're off to Germany now next week?
Yes, on Monday.
Have a lekker trip.
Thank you very much.
Lekker is a South African word that means terrific, doesn't it?
It means kind of
Lovely.
everything, but
yeah,
lekker
exactly.
is wonderful. But it's it's a word we use a lot.
Yes, yeah. Take care of yourself. It's been so
Thank
wonderful
you.
chatting with you. And
You too.
I hope it won't be too long before we see you again.